This conference will now be recorded.
So my topic is today's topic is dengue fever. So my agenda of the talk is introduction, clinical features, and types of dengue, case scenarios, and investigations and treatment. So dengue is an acute viral infection with potential fatal complications. It is the most rapidly spreading mosquito-borne viral disease in the world. So Benjamin Rush coined the term breakbone fever. So dengue fever is also known as, the other name for the dengue fever is breakbone fever. Dengue inflicts a significant health, economic, and social burden on populations of endemic areas. So it is a virus infection. You all know that it's caused by dengue virus, and there are 4 types of dengue viruses. They are DEN1, DEN2, 3, and DEN4, which is caused by Aedes aegypti mosquito. So there are 4 serotypes of DEN viruses. There are DEN1, DEN2, 3, 4. So see, in 1955 and in 2000, there is a increase in cases of dengue fever. So around 5 lakh cases of dengue hemorrhagic fever, and 22,000 deaths, mainly among children. So why is dengue fever back? So there is a complex interaction of ecology, environment, vector, and virus serotypes, and rapid transportation, industrialization, movement of infected people, and changing ecology. So the vector is transmitted by infected female mosquito, that is Aedes aegypti, can be identified with the white bands or scale patterns on its leg and thorax. So we can identify it by it. So it's not possible when the mosquito bites. We want to, we don't need to see for the white bands and scale patterns to hit her. Hit it. You can hit it. It's your wish. But you have to identify. It can be identified by white bands or scale patterns on legs and thorax. How mosquito transmit the disease in humans? Mosquito bites and sucks blood containing the virus from an infected person, and that passes the virus to healthy people when it bites. So you can see the more the people, the mosquito bites only in the morning times. The people who wear shorts, they're high risk of getting this dengue virus infection. So pathophysiology, there is a rapid activation of complement system, and that level of soluble TNF receptor, interferon gamma, and IL-2 levels are increased. So all these factors lead to there is increased vascular permeability through the nitric oxide final pathway. So virus and virus specific dengue virus and specific antibody, they infect the dengue virus in monocyte, leading to production of cytokines, which leads to plasma leakage. So the main pathological feature, the main disease is due to plasma leakage. All the clinical manifestations are due to plasma leakage. In due course of time, you will be able to understand what is the plasma leakage, and by the end of the session, you will be fair enough to know about dengue. But my point is, you have to read this dengue virus in today or tomorrow, because it's very important. It will be seen by you. You might have seen many of your relatives, friends might have, or yourself might have infected with dengue. So you should read this. You should read it perfectly. So dengue virus is caused by one of 4 different serotypes, that are DEN1, DEN2, 3, DEN4. The virus has 4 different types, and the infection with one type usually gives lifelong immunity to that type, but only short-term immunity to the other types. So if I get a DEN1 infection, I will get lifelong immunity for DEN1 serotype. if I get a DEN2, I will get lifelong immunity to DEN2, not other serotypes. So subsequent infection of previously I got a DEN1 or DEN2 infection. It is self-limited. Within 1 week, it has been resolved. But after 1 year, if I get a subsequent infection with other serotype, like the DEN3, DEN4, there is more chance of increases of risk of complications at that time. So the second time infection with different serotype that leads to more severe complications. And so um, one type usually gives lifelong immunity. One type gives a lifelong immunity and short-term immunity to the others. So clinical features. So it can be asymptomatic, or in symptomatic it can be present as a undifferentiated fever, dengue fever with hemorrhage and without hemorrhage, and dengue hemorrhagic fever with shock, dengue shock syndrome, and dengue hemorrhagic fever without shock. So it's a very important slide. You have to remember this. So according to 2009 WHO classification, it is classified as dengue fever. First, or criteria for dengue, when it is a probable dengue. So patient living or travel to a dengue endemic area and fever and presence of any two of the following features, then it is a probable dengue. They are nausea, vomiting, rash, acne and pains, and tourniquet test, leukopenia, and tourniquet test positive, leukopenia, and any warning signs, and lab confirmed dengue. So my point is, in due course of time, you will remember all these things. Don't worry. So probable dengue. So fever with any two of the features. So you can see whenever in casualty, whenever the patient comes, they said so doctor garu మా ఇంటి దగ్గర వెళ్ళాము ఫీవర్ వచ్చింది బ్లడ్ టెస్ట్ చేస్తే ప్లేటెడ్ తగ్గిపోయాయండి ఏం చేయాలంటే మా దగ్గరకు వస్తారు. So whenever the patient comes like that with thrombocytopenia, so we will ask some symptoms and we will check for some signs. If they are present symptoms from signs and symptoms, they are warning signs, then we will admit the patient. So we will ask for these signs and symptoms. They are presence of abdominal pain or tenderness, consistent vomiting, and clinical fluid accumulation, that is present of ascites or pleural effusion or pericardial effusion, liver enlargement by more than 2 centimeters, and increase in hematocrit concurrent with rapid decrease in platelet count. If any of these symptoms or warning signs are present, we will admit the patient. Why abdominal pain and tenderness, and why persistent vomiting, why third stage fluid loss, that is clinical fluid accumulation? Because if there is a more amount of clinical fluid accumulation like ascites or pleural effusion, patient may develop hypovolemic shock, and if you don't admit the patient and give fluids according to the his fluid deficit, patient may land into shock and may die. And presence of mucosal bleeds, and if patient having mucosal bleed like a gingival bleed, like and hematuria or hematochezia or hemoptysis, if patient doesn't get treated to that mucosal bleed, patient may die because of shock. Similarly, and liver enlargement and persistent vomiting, because liver enlargement and presence of raised enzyme levels, AST, ALT, is a poor prognosis. Patient may suddenly land in any shock. So these are the warning signs. We will ask these symptoms. So motion black out. So for a history of melena and any vomiting, vomitings, or any abdominal pain, any and present of any, I will check whole the body. We'll remove his shirt and we'll check his back and front, and he will see his palate to presence of any petechia. So these are the warning signs we'll ask to the patient. So probable dengue is Patient with dengue endemic area fever with any two of the following features: nausea, vomiting, rash, and tourniquet test positive. So what is tourniquet test? So other name for tourniquet test is HES test. HES. Do anyone know what is HES test or tourniquet test? Just if you do know, just message text in the chat box. What is tourniquet test? No one knows. If you can, if yes means yes, no means you can text in the box no. So I can page time and proceed to other things. No one knows. Okay. So severe dengue. What is criteria for severe dengue? So till now I'm telling you about dengue fever, dengue with warning signs, and severe dengue. Severe dengue means presence of plasma leakage and severe hemorrhage and severe organ impairment. So plasma leakage means it's a fluid accumulation with respiratory distress. If the major amount of fluid is accumulated in the lung, so lung cannot expand and patient may develop respiratory distress. Then severe organ involvement. So severe organ involvement and AST and ALT more than 1000 and CNS and impaired consciousness and heart and lung involvement. So what is the importance of tourniquet test or HES test? HESS. So we can know that patient we may not present with sir like the rash on the sir body మీద అంతా collateral rash on sir. So patient won't come with the classical findings sir having rash all this petechial all those things which are bleeding manifestations which are due to thrombocytopenia which is very warning sign we have to admit patient won't come. So you have to do a tourniquet test. So because the test for capillary fragility. So you have to take the patient blood pressure and record it. For example, it is 100%. Get the cuff point. Some Prasanna told tourniquet test for capillary fragility for roll number 47. Capillary. Okay, good. So inflate the cuff to the midpoint between SBP and DBP and maintain for minutes. So for example, for 100 by 70, the midpoint of B is 85 and keep it at 85 mm of Hg and wait for 2 minutes. So on inflating the cuff and maintaining for waiting for 2 minutes, after removal of the cuff, you can see the petechia in the antecubital fossa, that below the antecubital fossa. So if there are more than 10 per square inch, it indicates a tourniquet test was positive. That is, patient is high risk having bleeding manifestations. So patient no need to tell patient having hematuria, nasal bleed, gingival bleed, conjunctival hemorrhage, or any presence of petechia over the body. So we can induce these petechia by doing the tourniquet test or HES test, HES test. So it's the marker of capillary fragility and can be used as a triage tool to differentiate patients with fever. For example, for those dengue, even if tourniquet test was done previously, it should be repeated if it is previously negative and there is no bleeding manifestation. So you can do it with the monitoring. Patient came to you to the OP with dengue fever with most of whenever viral fever comes, patient will be having more prostration, weakness, restlessness, all those symptoms. So you will do this tourniquet test. So you can tell him, you can assure him, sir, doctor, there is no warning signs as of now. You can go home. Again, he comes to the next day. Again, you can do this test, and you can check other tests, LFTs and CBC. Still, if it is there is no bleeding manifestations and no tourniquet or HES test is negative, you can assure him. So you can repeat it in every day. Every day. If it is positive, you have to admit the patient because of increased risk of bleeding. So fever history. So any viral fever will having leukopenia. So any viral fever will have a leukopenia. That's why probable dengue fever and any two of the following: nausea, vomiting, rash, body aches, test positive, leukopenia, and any warning sign. The probable dengue. So fever history. It is important to take a fever history and determine where the dengue patient is in clinical course. So normal, what is the course? So how it comes and how it ends. So there are three phases: febrile phase, critical phase, recovery phase. So febrile phase will having patient having febrile dehydration, febrile seizures in children, neurological manifestations. In critical phase, prolonged shock, organ impairment, and bleeding manifestations. And in recovery phase, you will see the fluid overload, worsening effusions, acute pulmonary edema. So in February phase, then you will first three days you'll be having high temperatures, and in critical phase and recovery phase, so decrease in fever. Dengue patient, sir, a fever తగ్గిపోయింది సార్ అని చెప్పారు అంటే it means patient is entering into critical phase. That's right, you understood, right? So patient is going to critical phase. So after 6 days, so patient enters into the or 1 week recovery phase. So in this febrile phase, there are only mild symptoms: dehydration, febrile seizures in children, and neurological manifestation, prostration, body aches. But in critical phase, it is you have to identify these patients because patient may identify shock, organ impairment, and bleeding manifestations are seen in this critical phase. So similarly, platelet counts will be very low in febrile phase, and they in critical phase also they are very low. In recovery phase, they begin to rise. And the viral levels, dengue virus levels, viremia is high in febrile phase, and IgM and IgG antibodies rise slowly in critical, and plateaus in recovery phase. So you have to, I will tell you which graph to remember. Just remember this: absence of fever, disappearance of fever means patient entering into the critical phase. Because there is a loss of fluid because of prolonged shock, organ impairment, loss of fluid in the plasma leakage, the hematocrit will rise in critical phase. So you have to remember this. So there is a mosquito bite. So febrile phase, mosquito bite. After 7 days incubation period, -7 to 0. So there will be first 7 days is febrile phase. Then after first critical phase for 2 to 3 days, then recovery phase. The febrile phase is viremic phase, and it is characterized by with a biphasic fever and monitoring for defervescence. Defervescence means abatement of fever or absence of disappearance of fever. Monitoring of defervescence and warning signs crucial to identify progression into the critical phase. It occurs around day 3 or day 8 of the illness. So there is no hard and fast rule. The febrile phase should last for 6 days, 5 days. So normally it is 0 to 7 days, or it can last for as low as 3 days also. So just you remember that it is 0 to 7 days. So critical phase. So critical phase is, I told you, onset of defervescence. Defervescence means abatement of fever. So a rapid decline in platelet count. So you have to remember this slide, very important. If one thing in my whole class, it is very important to remember, because many of your relatives, your friends, or yourself may get this dengue infection. So you should know what's happening to my body. So you got it right. So you should understand this slide. Just listen carefully for 5 minutes. I told you febrile phase, critical phase, and recovery phase. So for example, in my MD, in my first year, there are 2 undergraduates which are for 4th sem. They don't know 4th sem or 5th sem kids. They came to me, sir, they're having fever and thrombocytopenia. So we admitted in our not one. We admitted in separate patient students ICU, students ward. So we have seen very carefully, because these are students. We should take more care. So while doing the patients, how he has on day 2, day 3, day 5 of his up to day 4, he's having severe thrombocytopenia and severe leukopenia. That means normal WBC count is 4,000 to 11,000. So he's having around 2000 of WBC count. Platelet count is around 45 to 50,000. So every day on day 3, day 4, day 5, every day he is having same the decrease in platelet count and decrease in leukopenia. In day 9, day 10 or day 11, we have seen that his WBC count has been improved. That is around 5,500. And after one day, we have seen that his platelet count has been improved. So I repeat, in day 10 or day 11, we have seen the WBC count has been improved, and later the platelet count has been improved. I don't know at that time because as a first year PG, I enjoyed a lot in my internship, and so I don't know. So okay, but he's out of danger. We have, but patient has a lot of bleeding manifestations. He has a classical hemoptysis, conjunctival suffusion, conjunctival hemorrhage, all those things. Because he lives in the hostel, boys hostel, where it's a high risk. There are many Aedes aegypti mosquitoes at there. So we thought it's endemic in dengue is endemic in Vizag. So that's why we thought classical dengue, and we gave him supportive treatment. So what I told in day 10, first we observed the improvement in WBC count and improvement in, and later after one day in platelet count. So we have to identify, because we failed to identify the onset of defervescence, because I don't know at that time. So we should check for onset of defervescence, that is absence of fever. So it indicates the patient is entering into the critical phase. And you see this graph, just remember this thing. So WBC falls earlier than platelets. So platelet count has been fallen below baseline, but WBC falls one day before. So leukopenia will be seen on day 5. Platelet count, thrombocytopenia will be seen in day 6. And the WBC rises early. So if the patient is having thrombocytopenia of 30,000 and 20,000, and WBC count is around 5,000 or 6,000, if you assure him, you are safe, your counts are improving, by 2 days or 3 days will be normal, because it is a normal phenomena that WBC counts rises first. See, you can see the graph. WBC counts rises first, and later platelet count. Okay, this is a course. So first to fall is WBC, and first to rise is WBC. Okay, and hematology in critical phase, there will be a loss of third space volume. There will be rise. So onset of defervescence and rapid decline in platelet count, but a rise in hematocrit. Leukopenia for 24 hours before platelet drop, and warning signs. So if all these symptoms are present, the patient is in critical phase, you have to monitor very carefully. So then I will end this slide by telling one more once I repeat again. WBC falls 24 hours before the platelet drops, and it rises earlier than platelet count. Okay. So this is the febrile phase, critical phase for 1 to 3 phase, non-viremic phase. So did you understood? Just tell yes. So I can go to the further slides. Just text yes or no. Shall I repeat this slide again? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So clinical assessment. So the patient is in critical phase. So how to identify patient is in shock or not? So it is critical to, I told you, patient in critical phase will having fluid loss. So prolonged shock, organ, because of hypovolemia or shock, there will be reduced organ perfusion, which leads to organ impairment. So that's why you should identify which patients are going in shock, or which patients are not ending in shock. So the early signs of shock are narrow pulse pressure. So normal pulse pressure is, what is pulse pressure? Systolic blood pressure minus diastolic blood pressure. So normal pulse pressure is 40. 120 is just normal systolic, diastolic is 80. So normal is 40. So narrow pulse pressure with rising diastolic blood pressure and delayed capillary refill time, there is, and tachycardia in absence of fever. It indicates the patient is going in shock. So you have to give fluid challenge to these patients. So what are the how to identify narrow pulse pressure, delayed capillary refill, The capillary refill will check will taught you in clicks how to check the capillary refill time. Tachycardia in the absence of fever. So WHO has classified dengue in two serotypes in 2009: severe and uncomplicated. Severe dengue is defined as the one that associated with severe bleeding, severe organ dysfunction, severe plasma leakage, while all other cases are classified as uncomplicated. So bleeding, organ dysfunction, plasma leakage indicates severe dengue. Okay, just a small.
Process in which the protein-rich fluid component of the blood leaks from blood.
Small video, just see it once.
Protein-rich fluid component of the blood leaks from blood vessels into the surrounding tissue. Plasma leakage is the most serious complication that distinguishes dengue from severe dengue. For some dengue patients, as fever begins to disappear, severe dengue will develop. The immune response against dengue virus begins when an infected mosquito inserts its proboscis into the epidermal layer of human skin and releases viral particles that are taken up by cells of the immune system known as antigen-presenting cells, or APCs. The dengue virus replicates within the APC, causing it to mature. The matured AP enters an afferent lymphatic vessel where it travels from the site of infection to the lymph node. In the lymph node, the mature APC produces chemical messengers that attract and activate T cells. In a patient with dengue, these activated T cells react and secrete pro-inflammatory molecules such as TNF-alpha, IFN-gamma, IL-6, and IL-8. In a patient with severe dengue, the production of pro-inflammatory molecules is significantly higher than in a patient with dengue. When these molecules enter the bloodstream, they help eliminate the virus and might also play a role in plasma leakage. The integrity of blood vessels is maintained by the endothelial surface glycocalyx and cell-to-cell junctions. The glycocalyx is a network of proteoglycans and glycoproteins that projects from the surface of endothelial cells and acts as the primary barrier against leakage of proteins and fluid across the vascular wall. The mechanism causing increased vascular permeability during severe dengue is not clearly understood, but there is evidence suggesting that reactive oxygen species, enzymes, and pro-inflammatory molecules start to break down the glycocalyx layer, allowing plasma to reach the underlying intercellular junctions and leak out into the tissues. The integrity of the blood vessel wall is altered in such a way that although plasma leaks from the blood vessels, the red blood cells are too large to pass into the tissue. This causes an increase in hematocrit, also referred to as hemoconcentration. A patient will show a progressive increase in hematocrit level beginning 3 to 4 days after fever onset. Patients with severe plasma leakage will have a 20% or more increase in hematocrit levels compared to their baselines. Severe plasma leakage can result in hypovolemic shock. Plasma leakage can also cause pleural effusions and ascites, which can result in respiratory problems. Isotonic intravenous fluids and colloids are administered to replace plasma, but the amount must be carefully monitored. Vital signs, fluid intake and output, and hematocrit levels must be recorded. Excessive IV fluid therapy can lead to pulmonary edema and respiratory failure. Patients can improve rapidly over 1 to 2 hours if resuscitated properly. However, care must be taken as leakage.
In the video, you have seen what's the mechanism of plasma leakage. So the RBC cannot move those cellular tight junctions. Only plasma will get leaked, and the patient will develop the large space volume loss and symptoms of shock. So clinical manifestations, which I have told previously, after an incubation period of 2 to 7 days, typical patient develops fever, chills, headache, back pain with severe myalgia and arthralgia. and retroorbital pain. So these presence of arthralgias, joint pains, and retroorbital pain, that due to presence of these features, it is termed as breakbone fever. Then macular rash in axillary area, lymphadenopathy, palatal vesicles, scleral injection, that is conjunctival suffusion, rash on trunk, epistaxis, and scattered petechia. So it is characterized by fever, rash, and joint symptoms. You can see the suffusion of the conjunctival or scleral injection. So then fever, severe headache, pain behind the eyes, that is retroorbital pain, and swollen glands. And red rash, which disappears when you press it. So you can see, you can dengue patients, you can press with your hand. Press the rash with your hand. It disappears on pressing. Nausea and vomiting, intensely painful joints and muscles. And other manifestations include pain on eye movement, pain on palpating abdominal muscles, and rarely aseptic meningitis, but complete asthenia is the rule. Recovery is the rule. So hemorrhagic manifestations of dengue: skin hemorrhage, petechia, purpura, ecchymosis, gingival bleed, nasal bleed. So all the bleeding manifestations: hematochezia, melena, hematuria. I have told you previously what are the hemorrhagic manifestations, and increased menstrual bleed. So these are purpura, petechia, hematemesis, gingival bleed, nasal bleed, and internal organ bleed. So all they are the hemorrhagic manifestations. Conjunctival bleed. So you can identify easily on examination when a patient comes to you, or if you don't know patient tells I'm a fever, all those symptoms, but there is no availability of CBC, like the lab is closed, or due to COVID, fever of COVID, the lab people are not doing this CBC or not taking blood sample. Only clinically you yourself and your consultant are there. So how to identify patient is having bleeding manifestations or not? As patient didn't have any history of melena, conjunctival suffusion, hematochezia, or no rash over the body on the back or trunk and torso. So how will you identify that patient having any bleeding manifestations? Just answer it. I repeat the question. How will you identify the patient? If the patient didn't have any lab features, CBC, and clinically he is fine, no conjunctival bleed, no hematuria, hematemesis, or no palatal gingival bleed. So how will you identify whether patient is having bleeding manifestations or not? Just anyone can text the chat box. No one. Roll number 60. Can you answer it? Roll number 60. So Ramya told tourniquet test, very good. So I expected you to, I had told you in the beginning of the class. So tourniquet test or HES test is very important. So Prema told by taking history and physical examination. Yeah, after taking in history and physical general examination only, what I asked you, what you want to do. So tourniquet test, good, because it's a very cheap, no need of CBC or those industrial school settings. It is, you have to do this tourniquet test, good. So only one student has told me that you have to do HES test or tourniquet test. No one told. So are you listening to the class seriously, or should I give it to another consultant instead of me? I don't think so. You are listening. So criteria for dengue hemorrhagic fever. So WHO case definition of dengue hemorrhagic fever is fever sudden onset for 2 to 7 days, hemorrhagic manifestations with positive tourniquet test, low thrombocytopenia, low platelet count or thrombocytopenia, and evidence of plasma leakage syndrome. So evidence of plasma leakage is either tourniquet test positive or rise in hematocrit. Because if there is a plasma leakage, the hematocrit will be, PCB will be raised by more than 20%. And low albumin in presence of pericardial or pleural effusions. These are features of evidence of plasma leakage. So criteria for dengue shock syndrome. The four criteria of dengue hemorrhagic fever and presence of any circulatory failure, the rapid and weak pulse, narrow pulse pressure, hypotension for the age, cold, clammy skin, and altered ventilation and capillary refill time. So just go and read today itself what is dengue hemorrhagic fever, what is dengue shock syndrome. Please do read this today. So there are four grades of dengue hemorrhagic fever: fever with confusion symptoms and test positive and thrombocytopenia. And grade 1 plus spontaneous bleeding is grade 2. Is how important that disease is. Just no need to write the notes. Just you can listen passively. So it takes 2 classes to complete a dengue fever. Today I will tell half the class, and remaining half will deal with in next week. So 24-year-old female referred by GP with suspicion of hepatitis A, fever for 3 days. General practice GP means general practitioner, general physician. For 3 days, myalgia and weakness for 2 days, tea-colored urine and jaundice on the day of referral. Pulse, BP are normal. Only there is tachycardia. Pulse rate is 110, and temperature 36. RR, respiratory rate 20. So at 4 p.m., the emergency department physician took history and examination, note vitals taken at 3 p.m. and tender epigastrium and positive Murphy sign was present. Tender epigastrium, what is Murphy sign? I think you have completed your general surgery clinics. So what is Murphy sign? Can anyone text in the chat box? So it is seen in right hypochondrial tenderness on palpation, or sudden respiratory rise in pain or tenderness in the right hypochondrium. Seen in cholecystitis, inflammation of the gallbladder. It is seen in cholecystitis. So due to presence of Murphy sign and patient was referred to surgeon because cholecystitis is a surgical case. Your patient was referred to the general surgery. At 4:15 p.m., patient reviewed by surgeon, and she was dehydrated. Patient was dehydrated in distress. For abdomen, tender epigastrium, Murphy sign positive, soft, no guarding, no rebound tenderness, bowel sounds present, no rectal, no blood, no mass. At 4 o'clock, patient noted the patient having thrombocytopenia and polycythemia, and ultrasound was asked. And 6:30 the physician has came. History was retaken. Fever was on 19th, which are 5 to 6 days back. Another patient having a transient rash and poor appetite. Patient was flushed with jaundice, and pulse is 120, cold clammy skin, BP 180. So narrow pulse pressure, 20 mm of Hg. So patient is going into the shock, and the weak 30 pulse, epigastrial tenderness, and dengue and petechia in lower limbs noted. So initially, due to presence of abdominal pain, positive Murphy sign, and fever, everybody, the surgeons and emergency department physicians have thought it as cholecystitis. But when the physician have seen, it was suspected dengue, and with the dengue serology was in, turned out to be positive. So that's how the patient presents. So on routines, WBC 6,900, platelet was 4,000, and her creatinine and blood urea raised, bilirubin and albumin is normal. Albumin is 3.5 to 5 normal levels. Bilirubin is elevated, and bacteria are present. So you can see on 24 patient timeline. Patient thrombocytopenia is banned, decreasing, is severe, 40 to 31,000, and WBC count has been, this is normal. So in classical case, what I told you in the previous graph, it's a classical case. The WBC count falls early and rises early. So there will be alteration in these values if the patient has developed a secondary bacterial infection. So patient has developed a secondary bacterial infection. That's why the patient has increased WBC counts. So it was initially identified as a hepatitis. Later, the shock was not recognized by the GP and subsequent physician, and presented as acute abdomen, pain abdomen, and polycythemia is a common misinterpretation. So compensated dengue shock in critical illness. So patient is having any critical illness, and the patient was moved to resuscitation bay, given fluids as per as patient symptoms gradually improved and discharged on further 2 days. So case 2, dengue with cardiac involvement. 18-year male, 4 days of fever and headache. Platelet count was 46,000. And the dengue NS1 is antigen positive. NS1 means non-structural antigen. NS non-structural. And ECG showed T wave inversion lead to 3 AVF, V3 to V6. And echo normal. TROP-I was negative. TROP-I means troponin I, which is a marker of cardiac injury. And creatine kinase 544 and CKMB, LDH, HGOT are mildly elevated. CKMB is normal. So, if the presence of T wave inversions indicates a cardiac injury, cardiac strain. So, normally T wave should be, so it's a R wave S. So, see once again, T wave R S. So, T wave should be positive. So, there are T wave inversions in 2, 3 AVF. So, lead 2 and lead 3, you are having T wave inversions. So, your T wave is inverted. Normally, it should be like this, but here is it's inverted. Here, this one, and lead AVF here. So ECG will be told to you separately in fine here. No need to remember this. Just a brief idea. We will be having this lead 1, 2, 3, AVR. R means right, AVL, AVF. F means foot, L means left. Then V1, V2, V3, V6. Just remember this. That's all. So the patient has presented with myalgias and ECG manifestations, which turn out to be dengue positive. So this one, just wait. 1 minute. Okay, I will stop the class. We'll deal with the further topic. Will be dealt in separate class.